Enrollment day, I took a helicopter to school. At the beginning of the freshman year, Lin Chen unexpectedly got a golden finger, completed the system-assigned tasks, and received super generous rewards. The starting task was to drive a helicopter to the school to report, which shocked the whole school. Congratulations to their host for completing the task of driving a helicopter to report, shocking the whole school, and being rewarded with a villa in the Waterfront Yaju Yunshuijian. Their host sent the school beauty senior sister back to school and received a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Congratulations to their host. Chapter 1, Reporting with a Helicopter. East Sea University. Today is the freshman orientation day. The September sun is still blazing, and the heat is unbearable. Song Qingwan took out a tissue and gently wiped the beads of sweat on her forehead. Qingwan, do you remember? On the confession wall the other day, someone asked if they could come by helicopter. I guess it was just a prank by some freshman, right? Who would really fly a helicopter here? Shen Minqi couldn't help but gossip. Song Qingwan raised an eyebrow slightly. Someone already debunked it. It was a joke from a sophomore. Shen Minqi was stunned. Huh? How come I didn't see that? Har, maybe you just didn't notice. At that moment, a nervous-looking figure approached. Song Qingwan, would you like some milk tea? A boy offered 2 cups of milk tea, his face wearing a shy smile. Song Qingwan was taken aback for a moment, then took a glass of water nearby and shook it. Sorry, I have water. Thank you. The boy's face froze, a hint of disappointment crossing his expression. Before he could react, a few people squeezed past him. Qingwan, would you like some snacks? I bought a big bag. Song Shuijie, his snacks are all fried, they make you fat and get pimples. I bought fruits instead. Qingwan, I brought you. Looking at the group in front of her, Song Qingwan felt a headache coming on. This scene made Shen Minqi incredibly jealous. Since the moment Song Qingwan arrived at Modu University, she had become the campus belle. She had even gone viral online because of a side profile photo and gained a lot of fans. At school, Song Qingwan had plenty of admirers. But until now, there had been no news of her being in a relationship. Despite the attention, she remained polite but always kept a distance, never accepting any gifts from any of them. Looking at the iced milk tea in front of her, Shen Minqi felt like her throat was on fire. She gritted her teeth, gathered up all the snacks, and said, I'm Qingwan's roommate. Qingwan's too shy to accept them, so I'll take them for her. Thanks, everyone. Alright, you can all go now, Qingwan still has things to do. Shen Minqi smiled. Song Qingwan was stunned by Shen Minqi's move. The admirers exchanged glances. Since Qingwan's roommate took them, it must mean Qingwan accepted, so they all started leaving. Minqi, what are you doing? Song Qingwan stomped her foot in frustration. Shen Minqi casually took out the milk tea, inserted the straw, and nonchalantly said, What's the big deal? It's just some snacks. I don't have any intention of dating any of them. Why did you accept their gifts for me? Shen Minqi pouted, I know you have high standards, but it's just a snack. No need to make a big deal out of it. I'm not picky, I just simply don't want to date. But by accepting their stuff, you're giving them hope. Before Song Qingwan could finish, there was a burst of excited shouting. Wow, a Ferrari supercar. A Ferrari, one of those cars you're probably never going to own in your life, must be a rich second generation. Driving a luxury car to report. This guy's a big shot. A Ferrari roared as it pulled up at the school gate. Shen Minqi immediately snapped out of her daze and, in a flash, took out her cushion foundation to touch up her makeup and applied a soft pink lipstick. This was the perfect, pseudo-natural look makeup to capture men's hearts. The car door opened, and a confident figure stepped out. The crowd immediately erupted. Bryony shirt, Armani pants, Casanova shoes. This was definitely a rich second generation. The rich guy got out of the car and immediately spotted Song Qingwan. After all, beautiful women are always eye-catching. He smiled, adjusted his tie, put on a gentlemanly smile, and walked straight towards Song Qingwan. Shen Minqi's face instantly dropped. It was obvious he was heading straight for Song Qingwan. With the campus belle here, she was just a background leaf, there was no room for Shen Minqi. She was well aware of this. Song Qingwan Shuijie, could you please help me with the registration? The rich guy's intense gaze made Song Qingwan feel uncomfortable all over. She took a step back to maintain some distance. Are you from the Chinese department? Song Qingwan asked. I'm from the Department of Physical Education. Song Qingwan sighed in relief and pointed to the opposite side. The Physical Education Department's registration volunteers are over there. But the rich guy smiled and said, Song Qingwan Shuijie, I applied to this university just for you. The surrounding onlookers immediately started gossiping. Damn, he actually came to our school just because of Song Qingwan. Turns out money can do anything. Going to college is like a game for him. Can the rich guy lower his standards a bit? Song Qingwan smiled politely, sorry, I'm from the Chinese department. Shenmingqi's eyes shifted, and she immediately said with enthusiasm, Junior, Qingwan is busy. How about I take you to registration instead? Song Qingwan didn't want to, but she wanted to say something. The rich guy glanced at Shenmingqi faintly, only offering a polite smile, thank you for your kindness, but I'd prefer if Song Shuijie helped me. He then looked at Song Qingwan again. Song Qingwan Shuijie, is there anyone else in this school who is more suited for you than me? Song Qingwan frowned slightly, sorry, I have no plans to date anyone during my 4 years of university. At that moment, someone from the crowd shouted, someone's coming in by helicopter. What? Stop causing trouble, that's just a prank. Yeah, who would really come to school by helicopter? If someone really comes by helicopter, I'll eat this table. Song Qingwan's face darkened. Just then, the sound of an engine revved up, growing louder, getting closer. What's that sound? Look at the sky, is that a helicopter? A helicopter soared straight into the school and landed on the sports field. The crowd went wild. Holy cow! Someone really flew a helicopter here. Huh? Where's the guy who said he'd eat the table? Sitting in the helicopter's cockpit, Lin Chen had a black line across his face. Congratulations to their host for completing the task for the first time. You have received the reward, Waterfront Villa in Yunshui Garden. Note, the key is in your pocket, and the property documents are in the first drawer of the study in the villa. Har. Lin Chen let out a sigh of relief. The task was finally completed. Yesterday, the system suddenly appeared and gave him a task: fly a helicopter to report to school. Luckily, his parents were away traveling. Otherwise, if they saw a helicopter at home, they would be scared half to death. Fearing drawing attention, Lin Chen didn't even bother packing anything. He just flew out straight away. But now, it seemed like he was attracting even more attention. What was the system thinking? After organizing his emotions, he stepped out of the helicopter and started looking for the sign for the Chinese department. Eventually, he locked onto a direction. Seeing Lin Chen walk over, Song Qingwan was stunned. Someone really flew a helicopter here, and he was from their department. The rich second generation was also dumbfounded. A guy flying a helicopter here, was he really here to compete for Song Qingwan? Seeing their new student volunteer badge, Lin Chen looked at Song Qingwan and asked, excuse me, Shuijie, I'm a freshman in the Chinese department. Is this where I register? Chapter 2, The Rented Helicopter. I have to say, this senior is really beautiful. She wore a white dress, with her long black hair braided into a side twist. Her bangs were also curled, giving her a very forest girl vibe. Her big doe-like eyes, innocent and pure, made people want to protect her instantly. She was definitely a goddess-level beauty, the school's most coveted flower. Huh? Yes, this is the place, Song Qingwan said, a bit stunned. Realizing she had lost her composure, she felt a little embarrassed. May I ask what major you're in, Junior? She asked politely. Chinese language and literature, Lin Chen replied. What a coincidence, he's her direct junior. Song Qingwan smiled. I'm also a Chinese language and literature major. Let me take you to complete your registration. This junior felt much better compared to the one earlier. He was simply dressed, and there was no hint of arrogance. If it weren't for the helicopter, she probably wouldn't have guessed he was from a rich family. Thank you, senior, Lin Chen said with a polite but firm tone. Chen Yao stood stunned. Could it be that someone really flew a helicopter to report for school? Not only had someone taken his place, but he had also embarrassed himself in front of the goddess, Song Qingwan. Looking at the curious gazes from those around him, he just wanted to find a hole to hide in. Hey, buddy, I was here first. Didn't you hear of the first come, first served rule? Chen Yao asked, suppressing his anger. Lin Chen was about to respond, but Song Qingwan stepped in front of him. As I already mentioned, the volunteers for the sports department's freshman registration are over there, she said, pointing in the opposite direction. Seeing his goddess speaking to another man made Chen Yao's anger flare. He felt as though his ego had taken a heavy blow, and he was now nothing more than a mere background character in Song Qingwan's life. His face darkened, and he scrutinized Lin Chen. Noticing his plain clothes, a mocking smile crept across his face. You didn't rent the helicopter with all your savings, did you? Even if it's rented, it must cost tens of thousands per hour. You must have spent quite a bit on this, right? In Chen Yao's mind, rich second-generation heirs were either flashy, wearing all sorts of luxury brands to flaunt their wealth, or they were low-key and wore private label designs that were hard to identify. But Lin Chen, looking at his slightly faded shirt, it was obvious that he didn't fit either mold. So Chen Yao naturally assumed that the helicopter must have been rented. His words left the crowd in stunned silence. Rented. At this point, people started to take a closer look at Lin Chen. Thanks to the helicopter aura, everyone had initially assumed Lin Chen was a typical rich second generation. However, after Chen Yao's remark, things didn't seem to add up. Lin Chen smiled lightly. If you think so, then sure, it's rented. What? The crowd was bewildered. The helicopter was really rented. TCH, so it was rented. I was wondering why someone with a helicopter would dress more plainly than me. I seriously suspect he rented the helicopter just for Song Qingwan. I hope the goddess doesn't fall for it. Hearing the murmurs from the surrounding students, Chen Yao was pleased to know his objective had been achieved. He smiled in satisfaction. He tilted his chin and looked at Song Qingwan smugly. Well, what do you think? Shouldn't you thank me for pulling you back from the wrong path? Song Qingwan's brow furrowed as she coldly replied, this is none of your business. I suggest you take care of your own affairs first. This rich second generation was becoming more and more annoying. On the other hand, her junior seemed much more down to earth and sensible, far better than this flaunting peacock. At that moment, a well-dressed middle-aged man pushed through the crowd and immediately spotted Lin Chen, his face lighting up. Mr. Lin! Mr. Lin! Finally, I found you, he exclaimed, wiping the sweat from his forehead and smiling like a child. The crowd exchanged confused glances. Who was this man? Was this Mr. Lin really calling out to the big faker? Even Lin Chen was confused. Excuse me, who are you? He asked, puzzled. The middle-aged man smiled cheerfully. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm the manager of the private helipad in Nanwan, Donghai City. You can call me Ju Hai. I'm here to help you move the helicopter back to the helipad, but I got delayed on the road due to the rush of the school season. I apologize for keeping you waiting, Mr. Lin. Please forgive me. As he spoke, he bowed slightly, showing great respect. What? There's a private helipad. What's going on? Was it just said to be rented? Could this man be an actor hired by Lin Chen? Wow, this guy's performance is a whole show. Lin Chen stood stunned. What was happening here? Suddenly, Lin Chen heard a mechanical voice in his mind. Warm tip, the private helipad and the manager are services included with your helicopter reward. It was then that Lin Chen realized what was going on. Well, that worked out fine. He had been wondering how to deal with the helicopter, but the system had already arranged everything for him. Thanks for your help. But let's discuss this while standing, please. The man looked at least in his 50s or 60s, and Lin Chen felt uneasy about having an elder bowing to him. Mr. Lin, I believe you've already reviewed the documents. Ju Hai asked. Documents? What documents? Lin Chen replied, still confused. I'm a retired captain with nearly 20 years of flight experience. Your helicopter is in good hands with me. Ju Hai said proudly. Chapter 3, Apology. Lin Chen. What the heck? Damn, is this for real? A retired captain is working as his manager. Everyone, wait a minute. Let me check if this is true. What the hell? It's actually true. There's even a photo of Ju Hai. The scene fell into a few seconds of stunned silence, and everyone's expressions were awkward, even Chen Yao's face turning from pale to green with anger. Anyone who wasn't a fool could tell that Lin Chen's earlier remark, if you think so, then sure, it's rented, was a direct jab at Chen Yao. Say whatever you want, I'm not even listening to you. How do you feel now? Mad, right? Yeah, mad. Damn it, the helicopter I can understand, but a retired captain working as his manager. This guy is a born winner. Everyone says not to lose at the starting line, but some people are born at the finish line. Like this helicopter guy. I'm so jealous. This is just way too much. Where are those people who said the helicopter guy rented it and hired actors? Why is everyone silent now? Sure, don't say anything, look at the Ferrari rich second generation S face. Upon hearing this, Chen Yao's face darkened even more. Song Qingwan stared at Lin Chen blankly. The sunlight hit his determined profile, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Why did she think this junior looked so handsome? He was rich but low-key, mature yet reserved. He completely shattered her preconceived notions about rich second-generation heirs. Chen Yao looked awful, but when he realized that the other party wasn't just any ordinary person, he chose to bow his head and apologize. I misjudged you earlier and caused you trouble. I'm really sorry about that. He wasn't stupid. The other person clearly wasn't ordinary, and he wouldn't rashly offend him now. His anger had clouded his judgment earlier, but now that he had calmed down, he realized how impulsive he had been. As a rich second-generation heir, he was aware enough to apologize. But this apology caused another stir among the bystanders. Two wealthy heirs facing off, and the helicopter guy wins. Damn. See? I told you my judgment was right. How could the helicopter guy be lying? Yeah, even a retired captain is his personal helipad manager. In response to Chen Yao's apology, Lin Chen casually shrugged and smiled nonchalantly. It's fine, I don't mind. For some reason, when Lin Chen said this, Chen Yao felt as though he was about to spit blood from frustration. He felt like in Lin Chen's eyes, he was nothing at all. After exchanging farewells, Chen Yao quickly fled the scene. Lin Chen's way of handling the situation once again surprised Song Qingwan. He was mature and composed, broad-minded. All in all, compared to the guy named Chen Yao, Lin Chen was in a completely different league. As for Song Qingwan's thoughts, Lin Chen had no idea. After handing over the helicopter's key to Zhu Hai, Lin Chen walked alongside Song Qingwan to complete his registration. They walked along a small path on campus, with osmanthus trees lining both sides. It was September, the perfect season for osmanthus flowers to bloom, and the air was filled with a fragrant scent. At that moment, Song Qingwan suddenly stopped in her tracks and looked up at Lin Chen. Junior, thank you for what you did earlier. After all, Lin Chen had helped her out of a tight spot earlier. Lin Chen paused for a moment, then smiled. I didn't do much. Senior, you're too polite. I have to admit, this senior seems kind of cute. From a boyfriend's perspective, she's even more beautiful. Her skin was pale as jade, smooth and flawless, not a single imperfection to be found. From Lin Chen's angle, he could see a different side of her that made her seem even more captivating. Chapter 4, The Senior is Shy. Cough cough. I didn't expect that although the senior sister looked thin, she had everything she needed. This is the real angel face and devil figure. She is indeed worthy of being a goddess. Song Qingwan should be the dream lover of many innocent boys, right? Lin Chen couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He got up early today, and after going through the new student registration process, he was so hungry that his stomach was sticking to his back. Senior, it's time for dinner. You've helped me so much, why don't we have dinner together? I'll treat you. After all, this school beauty must have been very tired after taking me around under the scorching sun, so it was only natural that I should treat her to a meal. Song Qingwan smiled and raised her eyebrows slightly. You want to treat me to a meal? Lin Chen nodded. Yes. That's great. Song Qingwan readily agreed. She actually doesn't like going out alone with the opposite sex, but the other person gives her a good feeling. It can be seen that Lin Chen is different from those persistent pursuers. He just simply wants to thank her, so she did not refuse. Shall we add each other on WeChat? It will be easier to contact each other in the future. Song Qingwan took out her cell phone and asked. I'll send you an electronic map of the school first. It will be much more convenient for you in the future. After all, our school is not small. After thinking for a while, she added. We made this ourselves, it's much more detailed than what we found online. Lin Chen nodded. Okay, thank you, senior. I'll sweep you. After adding Song Qingwan's WeChat message, Lin Chen sent his name. Lin Chen. My name is Song Qingwan. There is a beautiful person, clear and graceful, who is very consistent with senior sister Song's temperament. Lin Chen's evaluation was very pertinent. Although I have just learned from the crowd that this senior schoolmate's name is Song Qingwan. Not only is she good looking, but her name is also nice. Song Qingwan raised her eyebrows and looked at Lin Chen with some admiration. It is said that people who come to the Chinese department are all bad at math, and none of them loves literature very much. But this junior named Lin Chen immediately saw the illusion in her name, which is truly rare. Moreover, compared with the average second-generation rich, he is mature and reserved. Thinking about it, she smiled. Thank you for the compliment. At this time, Lin Chen suddenly approached Song Qingwan. Senior, don't move. Looking up at the face so close to her, Song Qingwan was a little confused. What is he going to do? Lin Chen used his fingers to pick up a fallen osmanthus flower from her head. Senior, a flower fell out of your hair. Huh? Oh, har, thank you. Song Qingwan bit her lower lip tightly, her cheeks slightly hot with embarrassment. What was she thinking about just now? How could she misunderstand others like this? It's so shameful. Looking at Song Qingwan's red ears, Lin Chen smiled secretly. This senior sister is so cute. Perhaps Song Qingwan's wild thoughts made her feel guilty, and after that, she spoke noticeably less. After completing all the registration procedures for new students, it was already past lunchtime, and the two prepared to go out for lunch together. Yunshuijian, a famous Chinese restaurant near Tunghai University. As soon as he entered, Lin Chen was amazed by the environment here. As expected of a Chinese restaurant, all the decorations inside are antique, and the air is filled with a faint scent of sandalwood, which makes people feel relaxed and comfortable. On one side of the dining table, there was a small stage separated by a beaded curtain, on which several beautiful women in chest and waist-length skirts were playing musical instruments. Yunshuijian is also a major feature of Donghai City. The two of them found a random seat and sat down, just facing the stage, making it convenient to watch the performance on the stage. As soon as he sat down, a beautiful lady in cheongsam brought him a pot of tea. Lin Chen subconsciously said thank you. Song Qingwan raised her eyebrows slightly, smiled, but said nothing. Unexpectedly, he was quite gentlemanly. At this time, Lin Chen had already handed a menu to Song Qingwan. Senior sister, please have some. I don't know what your food taboos are. Lin Chen said with a smile. Song Qingwan smiled sweetly. I didn't expect you to be so considerate. After she ordered the dishes, Lin Chen ordered a few more at random and called the beautiful waitress over. Soon, one dish after another, which looked delicious and fragrant, was served. Just the smell was enough to make people salivate. Song Qingwan seemed to remember something and looked at Lin Chen and said, By the way, Lin Chen, all of you freshmen will have a class meeting in the classroom tomorrow. Don't forget, this day is crucial. Crucial? Lin Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. Why do you say that? Chapter 5, Drunk. Hearing this, Song Qingwan patiently explained. It's like this. The class leaders of the university are selected on this day, and they will not be replaced for 4 years. Compared with ordinary students, class leaders will have more privileges. Song Qingwan deliberately emphasized the word privilege and then said, The first impression of the counselor is also very important. If you can build a good relationship with the counselor, your 4 years in college will be much easier. Lin Chen was slightly surprised. There were so many theories. As a freshman, he naturally didn't know about them. Thinking about it, he smiled. Thank you, senior. However, I like freedom, so I'll forget about being a class leader. I don't want any special privileges. Song Qingwan looked at Lin Chen with some surprise. Nowadays, there are many people who want to be class leaders. The student union members are even more so, thinking that they can do whatever they want once they become small leaders. To be honest, Song Qingwan also hates this kind of people. Lin Chen gave her a very Buddhist feeling, always looking calm and relaxed. I really don't know what this kind of person looks like when he gets angry. Song Qingwan's eyes made Lin Chen feel a little scared. Senior, is there something on my face? Hum? R. Song Qingwan quickly retracted her gaze, her cheeks slightly hot. No, no. To ease the embarrassment, she took the drink beside her. It was not until I finished drinking it that I realized it was fruit wine, and it had a strong aftertaste. Her inexplicable actions made Lin Chen feel a little amused and helpless. Immediately afterwards, 2 blushes quickly appeared on Song Qingwan's face. Lin Chen didn't expect that Song Qingwan's alcohol tolerance was so poor. After a few glasses of low-alcohol fruit wine, she became like this. Looking at Song Qingwan with blushing cheeks, Lin Chen shook his head helplessly. Senior, are you okay? Can I take you home? Hum? Okay. As soon as Song Qingwan stood up, she staggered. Fortunately, Lin Chen was quick to support her and prevented her from falling to the ground. Song Qingwan quickly stood up straight, her cheeks slightly hot, and she was very embarrassed. Thank you, thank you. Song Qingwan stammered, her voice as thin as a mosquito. She suddenly regretted why she drank so much in one go. Fortunately, she was with Lin Chen, who was also a gentleman. If it had been someone else, I don't know what would have happened. Thinking of this, Song Qingwan became even more grateful to Lin Chen. But Lin Chen didn't think so much. Seeing Song Qingwan's blushing face, he just wanted to send her back quickly and then go back to his Yunshuijian villa. Senior, I see you can't walk a few steps like this, can I help you? Song Qingwan nodded very embarrassedly. Okay, thank you for your help. No trouble. As he spoke, Lin Chen held Song Qingwan's arm and led her out. After paying the bill, Lin Chen took a taxi and took Song Qingwan back to school. Song Qingwan is the campus belle of Donghai University. Countless people want to pursue her, but no one succeeds. Lin Chen supported Song Qingwan while walking in the school, which naturally attracted a lot of people's attention. Eh? Isn't that the school beauty Song Qingwan? Who's that next to her? Is that her boyfriend? Didn't the campus beauty of Song University say that she wouldn't have a boyfriend while in school? Alas! I didn't expect that my goddess would be taken away by someone without my knowing it. Chapter 6, Waterfront Residences Between Clouds and Water. Hearing these words, Song Qingwan's cheeks felt slightly hot and she felt a little embarrassed, but she didn't explain. Lin Chen naturally heard it, but since Song Qingwan didn't explain, he was too lazy to waste his breath. After a lot of effort, I arrived at the bottom of the girls' dormitory building. There were couples reluctant to leave everywhere. A few meters away from Lin Chen and Song Qingwan, there was another couple who were being intimate as if no one was around. Lin Chen silently gave a thumbs up in his heart. Beefy biplace. College life is so great nowadays. Song Qingwan's cheeks were burning so hot that she didn't even dare to glance over there. We're at the dormitory, so I'll go back first. The smacking sounds of the couple next to her reached her ears, and Song Qingwan didn't want to stay here for a moment. Lin Chen nodded. After the two said goodbye, Song Qingwan fled into the dormitory building. After Song Qingwan went back, Lin Chen also left directly. However, he did not return to the dormitory, but went directly to Shuian Yaju Yunshuijian. Shuian Yaju is indeed the most luxurious villa area in the entire Donghai city. It is surrounded by mountains and rivers, with picturesque scenery, and even the property management team is the best in the entire Donghai city. You can definitely get an excellent living experience here. As soon as he reached the door, Lin Chen was stopped. The security guard looked respectful. Hello, sir. Outsiders need to register to enter. Before he could finish his words, the security guard was shocked. He immediately took out a photo for comparison. You are Lin Chen, Mr. Lin. Lin Chen was a little confused, but still nodded. The security guard immediately said, You bought Yunshuijian in full and are a VIP of our Shuian Yaju. I was short-sighted and didn't recognize you just now, please don't blame me. He really didn't expect that Mr. Lin, who bought the Wang Yunshuijian in Shuian Yaju building, was so young. After the Wang Yunshui room in the building, which had been vacant for a long time, was bought, it shocked the entire Shuian Yaju property. The manager immediately gave orders, asking them to keep their eyes open and not neglect Mr. Lin. Lin Chen waved his hand casually. It's okay. By the way, which direction is Yunshuijian? Go north, the most luxurious one at the end is our Wang Yunshui room. The security guard said very respectfully. Then, he thought for a moment and spoke again, Mr. Lin, do you need me to lead the way for you? Lin Chen paused and nodded. Okay, thank you. The security guard was a little flattered. No, Mr. Lin, this is all my responsibility. Afterwards, the security guard immediately used the pager to call his companion to take over his position, and he himself became Lin Chen's guide. Along the way, the security guard told Lin Chen a lot about Yunshuijian Yaju, which gave Lin Chen a certain understanding of the place. I have to say that Yunshuijian Yaju is really full of birdsong and flowers, and it is quite artistic. Soon, Lin Chen saw his own cloud and water room. Surrounded by the lake on three sides, it has the best geographical location in the Yunshuijian Yaju villa area and, of course, the highest price as well. After thanking the security guard, Lin Chen entered the villa. In a villa opposite Yunshuijian, in the living room on the second floor, Jiang Li was wearing lazy home clothes, holding a glass of red wine, standing in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, with her waist-length wavy hair casually tied behind her head. Her gaze passed through the floor-to-ceiling windows and fell on the Yunshuijian villa opposite. Her beautiful peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly, and her beautiful eyes were full of doubts. Is there anyone living in Yunshuijian? Didn't you say it's not for sale? Chapter 7, A Visit from a Beautiful Neighbor. Yunshuijian has an excellent location. She had also taken a fancy to Yunshuijian at first, but the property management said it was not for sale to the public. So she had to settle for the second best and bought the building opposite Yunshuijian. Could it be that Yunshuijian was reserved specifically for this person? Jiang Li raised her red lips slightly. It seems that her neighbor is not an ordinary person and it is time to visit her. Since we are neighbors, we are bound to interact with each other. She drank the wine in the glass, placed it casually on the table, and turned into the room. 3 floors, nearly 700 square meters. Lin Chen visited his villa and was extremely satisfied. Private courtyard, private swimming pool, gym and everything else are available. It can be said that there is nothing it can't do, as long as you can think of it. Sure enough, the world of the rich is different. There is a huge floor-to-ceiling window in the living room, and a vast river view is right before your eyes, which is pleasing to the eye. There are all kinds of furniture in there, all of them are the best. Of course, the money is included in the house price. So there is a reason why luxury homes are so expensive. Lin Chen sat comfortably on the soft leather sofa, feeling relaxed and comfortable. aishaingba.org. 1 word. Cool. 2 words. Comfortable. Just then, the doorbell rang. Lin Chen frowned slightly. Is it the property? Thinking of this, he got up and opened the door. As soon as the door opened, a beautiful figure appeared before his eyes. The black one-shoulder mini dress, fiery red lips, upturned eyeliner and seductive peach blossom eyes are simply captivating. A pair of big chestnut brown wavy curls, casually draped in front of the bear. This wave is really white. Jiang Li was also stunned. She never expected that this new neighbor. So young. He looks like he's barely 20 years old, right? 9 times out of 10, he is a college student. Although Yunshuijian is not for sale to the public, it will definitely cost a lot of money to buy this villa. Could this be a young master from a noble family? Coming back to her senses, Jiang Li smiled charmingly. Hello, neighbor. My name is Jiang Li and I live across from you. As she spoke, she pointed to her villa. My name is Lin Chen. Lin Chen also quickly retracted his gaze and greeted him. Time is tight, and I haven't prepared anything. It's just a small gift, not a token of respect. As he spoke, Jiang Li presented the gift box in his hands with both hands. Lin Chen was slightly surprised. At this time, there were 2 bottles of red wine, which looked very expensive. How can this be so embarrassing? Jiang Li was also generous and directly stuffed the wine into Lin Chen's hand. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just a small token of my appreciation. Seeing that he couldn't refuse, Lin Chen had no choice but to accept it. Would you like to come in and sit down? Lin Chen asked. Jiang Li raised her eyebrows. Then I will respectfully obey your command. Lin Chen turned slightly sideways and made a please gesture. Jiang Li didn't hesitate and walked in openly. Her figure is swaying, and every frown and smile is charming. Lin Chen couldn't help but think of an idiom, naturally charming. After looking around, Jiang Li sighed. This Yunshuijian has a nice layout, it's worthy of the house I liked, but I didn't get it. I didn't expect Mr. Lin to be able to buy such a nice house at such a young age. He is really young and promising." Lin Chen smiled faintly and placed the wine on the table. "Miss Jiang, thank you for your compliment. Please take a seat." Jiang Li's beautiful eyes turned and her gaze fell on Lin Chen. "From what I can see, Mr. Lin is only in his early 20s at most, right?" As she said this, she sat down on the sofa with her legs crossed naturally. Lin Chen also sat opposite her. Miss Jiang guessed right, 20 years old. Jiang Li pursed her lips and smiled. "You guessed it right, he's really a little brother." Miss Jiang, please be so polite. We are neighbors after all. I'm older than you, so you can call me Sister Li without any loss, how about that?" Chapter 8. He was teased. Looking at Jiang Li's teasing eyes, Lin Chen was a little confused. Why did he feel like he was being teased? But what she said made sense. After thinking about it, Lin Chen still called her Sister Li obediently. Jiang Li burst into laughter. "Hey, good boy." Now Lin Chen was even more confused. Why is she laughing? What's the joke? Is it really that funny? Looking at Lin Chen's silly and cute look, Jiang Li found it even more interesting, but she also knew when to stop. Then her phone rang. Jiang Li answered the phone immediately, said, and okay, and hung up. Then, she looked at Lin Chen apologetically. "Brother, I have a meeting at my company and I have to leave. Can I come and play with you next time?" "Okay." Lin Chen nodded and sent Jiang Li to the door. After seeing Jiang Li off, Lin Chen washed up, lay down on the soft and comfortable Simmons bed, and gradually fell asleep. The next day, as soon as Lin Chen got up, he received several messages from Song Qingwan. "Song Qingwan, I really troubled you yesterday, thank you for sending me back." Song Qingwan, in a daze.jpg. Song Qingwan, observe in secret.jpg. These cute emoticons made Lin Chen burst out laughing. After chatting for a few minutes, Lin Chen put down his phone. In the evening, Lin Chen went directly to the teaching building. Yesterday, Song Qingwan specifically reminded him that there would be a class meeting today, the main purpose of which was to select class leaders. Although Lin Chen had no interest in things like class leaders, it was the first class meeting after all, so he still had to go. After Lin Chen went upstairs, he quickly found his classroom according to the electronic map Song Qingwan sent him. I have to say that there are really more girls in the Chinese department. I didn't see many boys along their way. After arriving at the classroom, Lin Chen found that he was late and the seats in the classroom were basically full. Lin Chen found a seat at random and sat down. As soon as he sat down, Lin Chen smelled a faint scent of jasmine, which was vague and mixed with the body fragrance of a young girl. It smelled very good. The moment Lin Chen sat down, the girl next to him suddenly froze and moved to the other side without making a sound. Lin Chen also noticed her little action and greeted her. "Hello classmate, my name is Lin Chen, what's yours?" She glanced at Lin Chen, then quickly looked away. Sumo. The girl is quite pretty, with a baby face, delicate profile, and long eyelashes trembling under her bangs. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. "Mo of Jasmine." She nodded without saying anything, but the tips of her ears turned pink. Lin Chen was quite surprised. He didn't expect that there are still such shy girls nowadays. It's quite rare. You have to know that many girls nowadays, if you tell them a dirty joke, they can tell you one that is even dirtier than yours. As if unable to resist her curiosity, Sumo secretly glanced at Lin Chen. "How did you guess that?" Lin Chen said casually. "You smell like jasmine." Sumo was slightly startled. At this moment, Lin Chen suddenly smiled and looked at her student card on the table. "Your student card is still there, with your name on it." Sumo quickly put away the student card and was about to say something when the acting head teacher came. Tonghai University has a tradition of assigning an acting class teacher to each freshman class for a period of 1 month. The acting class teacher is a senior from the same department. The acting head teacher of Lin Chen's class is a slender senior wearing black-framed glasses. After the substitute teacher gave a speech on stage, the next step was to elect class leaders. Class leaders are elected by students through free speaking on stage and voting. Now it is the stage for the Youth League Committee election, and the person running for election on the stage is a girl. A bit boring. Lin Chen took a quick look and found that most of the students in the class were looking down at their phones. At this moment, there was a click sound, and Lin Chen subconsciously looked down, and happened to meet the eyes of Sumo, who was bending over to pick up a pen. Chapter 9, Meeting the Best. I pick up a pen. Sumo spoke in a low voice, her voice as thin as a mosquito. As she leaned forward, her collar was stretched tight. Lin Chen just felt a little dizzy. He looked down at his feet and sure enough, there was a pen. Do you need my help? Hearing this, Sumo immediately shook her head and said subconsciously, need not. As soon as she said these two words, Sumo regretted it. She looked at the pen at Lin Chen's feet, and Sumo felt conflicted. After thinking about it, she bent down and reached out for the pen, with her head almost touching Lin Chen's legs. One of them didn't hold on firmly and crashed into it. Lin Chen only felt his calf being touched and looked at Sumo in confusion. At the same time, Sumo straightened up as if she had been electrocuted, with an embarrassed look on her face. I can't pick it up, can you help me? She was extremely embarrassed. If she had known, she would have asked him to pick it up for her. Lin Chen was a little puzzled. The pen was positioned at a tricky angle, so it would be strange if she could get it. I just said I would help her pick it up, but she refused, and now she wants me to help her again. Women's hearts are like needles in the sea. Thinking of this, he bent down and helped her pick up the pen. Sumo held the pen in both hands, looked at Lin Chen gratefully, and whispered, thank you. Fine. Sumo originally thought that she would be laughed at, but she didn't expect that after Lin Chen finished speaking, there would be no follow-up. Because of what just happened, she looked at Lin Chen's profile from time to time, trying to find a chance to talk to him, but she didn't know what to say. The scene just now was seen by Zukai, who was sitting in the back seat. His face gradually became gloomy. Although there are many beautiful girls in Donghai University, Sumo is one of the best among them and is also the most beautiful girl in their class. When he first met Sumo, he intended to take Sumo down. But he didn't expect that when he was running for class monitor, someone wanted to get there before him. He looked up and down at Lin Chen in front of him, and seeing that he was dressed in ordinary clothes, he felt relieved. Are you Lin Chen? Zukai asked. Lin Chen turned his head slightly, and seeing that the other party had a bad expression, he just nodded lightly. We are in the same dormitory. My name is Zukai. Why didn't you return to the dormitory last night? Zukai asked. Question. Yes, the feeling he gave Lin Chen was that of a question. Perhaps realizing that he was being a little rude, Zukai continued to add. We already selected the dormitory head yesterday. It was you who didn't come back. Don't blame us for not asking for your opinion. Oh, whatever. I live out here. After saying this, Lin Chen turned his head away, too lazy to pay any more attention to him. Lin Chen felt it was a waste of time to even speak a word to such a superior person. Zukai felt like he had punched cotton, and his heart was filled with depression. If you want to live off campus, you have to apply to the counselor and get approval. I'm the dormitory head, and you're making it difficult for me. Zukai continued. Lin Chen suddenly became impatient. Song Qingwan also mentioned to herself that many people live off campus, and applying to the counselor is just a formality. If you don't apply, the counselor will just turn a blind eye. And this Zukai is obviously looking for trouble. He also wondered when he had offended this person. Sensing the tense atmosphere between the two boys next to Zukai spoke up. Oh, it's okay. Just apply when the time comes. I heard it's easy to pass. Yes, it's easy to get approved. Zukai, who was stubborn, didn't notice the way his companions gave him, and continued. If something happens to you outside, I can't afford the responsibility. At this time, Sumo also turned around and looked at him. Zukai's face showed a little more joy. Student Sumo, don't you think so? Sumo frowned slightly. What does this have to do with her? I have no idea. After saying this, Sumo turned around and pretended to write something of her own, but her attention was on Lin Chen. Just then, there was a commotion at the door and Lin Chen subconsciously looked up. Chapter 10, Campus Bell, please join our club. The person who came was Song Qingwan, and behind her were several senior students. Zukai's eyes lit up and he was completely amazed. He wanted his eyes to be glued to Song Qingwan. The classroom suddenly became lively. Is this the campus beauty of Donghai University, senior sister Song Qinwan? She is much prettier in person than in the photos and videos. No wonder some people said Song Qinwan doesn't look photogenic before, now it's true. She looks good in photos, but even better in person. Senior sister Song was carefully molded by newer, while we are just random dots of mud. It hurts my heart. Zhu Kai sighed. He also knew that a goddess like Song Qinwan had no shortage of suitors, and he was nothing at all, so he had to settle for the second best and turned his target to Sumo. Now is the time for the club to recruit new members. Song Qinwan, the president of the Chinese Studies Society, is speaking on the stage. The National Studies Society aims to promote the essence of Chinese traditional culture, traditional moral norms, and profound philosophical thoughts, enrich campus life, and provide a platform for every student of Donghai University to understand, communicate, and inherit the national studies culture. As for what she said, few people in the classroom listened, and almost everyone's attention was on her. After all, beauties are pleasing to the eye. After Song Qinwan promoted the Chinese Studies Society on the stage, several members hurried down to write down the names of new students who were interested in joining the society. Song Qinwan, on the other hand, walked down with a form in hand. Zhu Kai shuddered and immediately sat up straight. Seeing Song Qinwan smiling at him and walking towards him, Zhu Kai's heart was beating wildly with excitement. What if senior sister Song falls in love with him? But if he had to choose between Song Qinwan and Sumo, he would definitely choose Song Qinwan. Just when he was daydreaming, Song Qinwan stopped in front of Lin Chen. Junior, are you interested in joining our National Studies Society? At this time, many people's eyes were focused on Lin Chen. The expression on Zhu Kai's face froze. Lin Chen raised his head and looked at Song Qinwan, who was smiling at him. With so many people joining in, I can still make a difference, right? Lin Chen smiled. In fact, he doesn't want to join any club because there are too many things to do. He would rather spend his 4 years in college in a carefree manner. Song Qinwan covered her mouth and smiled. It would be even better if you could join us. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. What are the benefits of joining the National Studies Society? Song Qinwan sat in the empty seat in front of him and said. It's like this. By joining the Chinese Studies Society, you can get extra credits for the club, which is very important for the comprehensive assessment at the end of the semester. Our Chinese Studies Society also organizes some activities, and if you win a prize, you will be awarded a school-level certificate. The certificate can also add extra points, which will also be helpful for finding a job after graduation. Well, it seems to make some sense. Lin Chen nodded. In fact, he didn't care about credits or anything, but since Song Qinwan had spoken, there was no problem in joining a club. As he spoke, he picked up Song Qinwan's pen and filled in his information on the form. Everyone was envious and jealous again. They all graduated from 9 years of compulsory education, so how could he be so outstanding that senior Song Qinwan would come personally to recruit him into the club? Zhu Kai's face turned pale and blue, and he seemed to have regarded Lin Chen as his biggest rival. Thinking about this, he took the initiative to talk to Song Qinwan. Senior Song, I also want to join the Chinese Studies Society. Chapter 11. Another senior girl comes. But Song Qinwan just glanced at him and turned back to look at her members. Xiaoqing, bring a form over to this junior. Having said this, Song Qinwan continued talking to Lin Chen. A fat senior schoolmate weighing nearly 200 pounds came bouncing over and handed a form to Zhu Kai. Zhu Kai was so angry. But no matter how angry he was, he still picked up the pen and wrote his name. I'm going to the bathroom. After saying this, he stood up and prepared to leave. He wanted to go out and get some fresh air. If he stayed here any longer, he was afraid he would be mad to death. The two boys next to him quickly made room for him and asked him to leave. After chatting for a few words, Song Qinwan took the members away. After all, they still had to recruit new members for the next class. Zhu Kai, who had smoked several cigarettes in the toilet, also returned to his seat. Zhang He, who was browsing the campus network, suddenly exclaimed, "Oh shit." Zhu Kai frowned and asked unhappily. Someone from our school came to register by helicopter. And he's from our Faculty of Arts. I really don't know who he is. As freshmen, they were still very out of touch with the news, so naturally they didn't know that the person who came to report in by helicopter was Lin Chen, who was sitting in front of them. Zhu Kai sighed and said quietly, I've heard about this. A helicopter costs at least several million. The fuel is not cheap either, and you have to buy an air route. This is a life that only the rich can enjoy. I heard that this big guy has a private helipad in Donghai City, and even the manager of the helipad is a retired captain. Such a big guy is someone we can only look up to. Lin Chen had sharp ears and smiled helplessly when he heard this. If Zhu Kai knew in the future that he was their big boss who flew the helicopter, I really wonder what his expression would be. It's fun to think about. Soon, the second wave of club members arrived at the door. Shenmingqi quickly took out a makeup mirror at the door to check her makeup, and took out her lipstick to touch up her carefully applied lip tint. After making sure that she was in the best condition, she closed the makeup mirror with satisfaction. The girl next to her laughed and said, "Mingqi, you seemed so attentive to those classes just now. Could it be that there is a junior student in this class that you like?" Shenmingqi raised the corners of her mouth slightly and looked at her proudly. "What do you know? Opportunities always come to those who are prepared." As she spoke, she puffed out her proud assets, raised her chin slightly, and looked like a queen. He scanned the freshmen one by one, looking for a certain figure. The moment she saw Lin Chen, her eyes lit up. A junior who flies a helicopter. She deliberately wore a tight white shirt today, which perfectly showed off her beautiful figure. She wore an irregular hip skirt and a pair of high heels. Unlike Song Qingwan's thinness, she is of the plump type, and has a perfect figure in the eyes of most boys. The first time he saw her, Lin Chen had only one thought. These buttons are really hard to work on. Immediately afterwards, Shenmingqi walked towards Lin Chen. "Hello, Junior Lin Chen, do you remember me?" Shenmingqi smiled faintly. This scene made the boys present extremely envious. First it was Song Xiaohua, and now it's the sexy senior. They don't understand, apart from not being as handsome as Lin Chen, what else are they inferior to this kid? Lin Chen frowned slightly. "Who are you?" Chapter 12 Rolls-Royce Phantom. He just felt that this sexy senior schoolmate looked familiar, but he forgot where he had seen her. The expression on Shenmingqi's face froze for a moment, but returned to normal after a moment. "I'm Qingwan's roommate, Shenmingqi. I was next to Qingwan on the day of the orientation," she explained patiently. "Oh. Still can't remember it." At that time, his attention seemed to be all on Song Qingwan, and he completely forgot that Shenmingqi was beside her. "Hello, senior." Although he didn't remember who she was, Lin Chen still called her senior sister out of politeness. Shenmingqi showed joy. "You remember now, don't you?" Lin Chen nodded somewhat awkwardly. At this time, Shenmingqi handed a form to Lin Chen, put her hands on Lin Chen's desk, and gave him a wave of benefits. "Junior, do you want to join our literature club?" As he said this, he winked at Lin Chen. Lin Chen quickly moved back a little. There was no way, he felt a little dizzy and was afraid that he was malnourished. "Senior, I just joined a club. If there are more, I'm afraid I won't be able to handle it." Shenmingqi was not annoyed by Lin Chen's rejection, and sat in front of him, which was the seat where Song Qingwan had just Saturday. "What club did you join? Can our literature club be one of them? Our literature club is the largest club in the Faculty of Arts, and there are so many beautiful girls there." As she spoke, she held her chin with one hand, looking cute and naive. "National Studies Society." Hearing these three words, Shenmingqi's face changed, and she cursed Song Qingwan in her heart as a white lotus and green tea bitch. On the surface, she said she would not date during her 4 years of college, but in fact, she was secretly hooking up with her prey. Thinking about this, Shenmingqi came closer and whispered in a voice that only the two of them could hear. "You're afraid of trouble, aren't you? How about you just join our club and don't have to do any work related to the literature club?" Lin Chen smiled and said, "Senior, are you using your position to give me a backdoor?" Shenmingqi stepped back, holding her chin with both hands. "If you want to understand it that way, it's okay." Just then, the system that had not appeared for several days appeared. Beep. Congratulations to their host for triggering the plot mission. Join Shenmingqi's literature club, and be rewarded with a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Oh my god. Rolls-Royce. This task is much simpler than reporting in by helicopter. It's just a matter of joining a club and you can get a Rolls-Royce Phantom, so why not? What's more, Shenmingqi also said that he was just a figurehead. But he would be willing to do so no matter how busy he is, as long as he could get a Rolls-Royce Phantom. What is a Rolls-Royce Phantom? That's the romance of a man. Just as Lin Chen was stunned, Shen Mingqi asked. Brother, have you thought about it? Lin Chen came back to his senses and smiled slightly. I've thought about it. I'll join. Seeing this, Shen Mingqi showed joy on her face and immediately handed the pen to Lin Chen. Almost at the moment when Lin Chen finished filling out the form, the mechanical voice of the system appeared in his mind again. Congratulations to their host for completing the task and receiving a Rolls-Royce Phantom as a reward. Note, the sports car is parked under the teaching building of the Faculty of Arts, and the car key is in the host's pocket. Lin Chen reached into his pocket and found a bunch of car keys inside. Looking at Lin Chen's slightly strange movements, Shen Mingqi was a little confused. Junior, what's wrong with you? Lin Chen smiled. Fine. Senior, you are really my lucky star. Shen Mingqi was slightly stunned. Was she seduced by Lin Chen? After realizing what was happening, Shen Mingqi blushed and said coquettishly. I didn't realize you were really good at flirting with girls. Chapter 13 I just looked down on you. Although she didn't know how she became Lin Chen's lucky star. Lin Chen smiled and said nothing. At this time, Shen Mingqi's club's promotional activities also ended. Before leaving, she also added Lin Chen's prestige. Soon after, several more clubs came to promote their products, but Lin Chen couldn't listen to them anymore. Now he just wants to experience his Rolls-Royce Phantom well. After finally waiting for the get out of class to end, everyone rushed out. Lin Chen complained about the traffic and waited until there were fewer people before going downstairs. As soon as I got downstairs, I saw a crowd of people surrounding a car, and that car was my Rolls-Royce Phantom. Holy crap! Newbie plus. Is this a Rolls-Royce Phantom? It's so damn cool. If I could drive this luxury car, I would be willing to shorten my life by 3 years. Everyone please stay away from it. If you get scratched by accident, hundreds of thousands of dollars will be wasted. Zhu Kai also stood aside, looking at the Rolls-Royce Phantom in front of him with admiration. This is a real luxury car. His roommate Zhang He asked. Brother Kai, this car looks very expensive. How much does it cost? Zhu Kai glanced at him and said. The car is priced at over 6 million yuan, and that's just the price of the bare car. If you add the optional equipment, you'll have to add several million yuan. If it's the top model, the price will be even higher. Zhang He took a breath of cold air. This is horrible, today is really a cheese day. At this time, Zhu Kai saw Lin Chen standing with his arms folded and smiled. Why, you like this car too? Lin Chen glanced at him and said nothing. Zhu Kai sneered and walked forward. It's useless even if you like it. Such luxury cars will never have anything to do with our lives. However, although I can't afford a Rolls-Royce, I have a BMW 5 Series. Although it's not as good as a Rolls-Royce, it's still pretty good. Lin Chen frowned slightly and looked at him as if he were a fool. I wonder who gave him the courage to show off his superiority in front of me? Zhu Kai felt a little uneasy when he was looked at by him, and he was immediately very angry. What's that look in your eyes? You look down on me. Zhu Kai swallowed the rest of the words back into his stomach. Because Lin Chen had already taken out the car keys, walked towards the Rolls-Royce, opened the door and got in. Zhu Kai's mouth opened into an O shape, looking like he had seen a ghost. What did he just see? Lin Chen got into the Rolls-Royce Phantom. In other words, this luxury car belongs to Lin Chen. Damn, this luxury car belongs to this little brother. Hey, why does he look familiar to me? Isn't this the helicopter boss? He's the freshman who reported for duty by helicopter. That's not surprising. He has a helicopter, not to mention a supercar. Wow, I don't know if this little brother has a girlfriend. If not, would you mind having one? If he does, would you mind having another one? I'm a very good boy and I won't fight for anything. By the time Zhu Kai reacted, Lin Chen had already driven away in a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Listening to the sounds around him, Zhu Kai seemed to have all his strength drained away, and his face looked as ugly as if he had swallowed a fly alive. He also caught an important piece of information just now. Lin Chen is the freshman who reported in by helicopter. He now understood why the two seniors were so attentive to Lin Chen, and also understood why he lost to Lin Chen. They have the money. Zhu Kai's legs went weak and he almost fell to the ground, and finally he fled in panic. Chapter 14. This movie ticket is really cheap. Sitting in the top of the line Rolls-Royce, Lin Chen was filled with surprise. The naturally aspirated 60-degree V12 engine, coupled with a ZF 6-speed automatic transmission, accelerates from a standstill to 100 km per hour in just 5.9 seconds, and its top speed can reach 240 km per hour. In one word, awesome. 2 words, super cool. Try to stay as far away from the cars around you. If you get bumped into, you might have to sell your car or house. While waiting for the red light, Lin Chen rolled down the car window. Suddenly, a whistle was heard from the side, and he subconsciously turned his head to look. She was a beauty with an internet celebrity face, big eyes and a pointed chin. Lin Chen suddenly thought of the snake spirit in the Calabash brothers. She threw a wink at Lin Chen. Handsome guy, wanna be friends? Lin Chen withdrew his gaze and silently rolled up the car window. When the light turned green, Lin Chen stepped on the accelerator, and the roar of the Rolls-Royce V12 engine exploded instantly. The Rolls-Royce Phantom disappeared directly from the astonished sight of the internet celebrity-faced beauty. When we returned to Shuian Yaju, it was already 10 o'clock in the evening. As soon as you reached the door, you were stopped by the security guard. After seeing that it was Lin Chen, the security guard quickly let him in and said respectfully, "Mr. Lin, how about I take a photo of your car and register it for you at the property management? This way you don't have to register when you go in and out, which will be much more convenient." Lin Chen nodded. "Then I'll trouble you. This is what I should do. After taking the photos, Lin Chen drove the car directly back to Yunshuijian. As soon as I entered the door, a notification tone from my mobile phone rang. It is a friend request, with the note Zukai. Lin Chen wanted to ignore it, but after thinking about it, he agreed to the application. As soon as I passed, several messages came in succession. Zukai, Lin Chen, I'm sorry, I was blind today. Zukai, we are classmates, can you forgive me this time? Zukai, I promise that I will never do this again. Lin Chen frowned and set his messages to do not disturb. Just as I was about to go wash up, Shenmingqi sent me another message. Shenmingqi, Junior, are you free tomorrow? I'll treat you to a meal. Shenmingqi, so cute.jpg. Shenmingqi, acting cute.jpg. Lin Chen thought about it and finally refused. Shenmingqi, oh, that's such a pity. I happen to have 2 movie tickets. We can go to the movies after dinner. Then she sent a picture with 2 tickets for a popular movie recently, and below the tickets was a pair of legs wearing fishnet stockings. Lin Chen, this movie ticket is so cheap. Shenmingqi on the other end of the phone saw the message from Lin Chen and smiled. This is her ultimate move to kill men. Almost without hesitation, she quickly typed a line in the chat box. Shenmingqi, then, Junior, would you like to watch a movie with me? For a moment, Lin Chen didn't know what to say. Lin Chen's silence made Shenmingqi a little embarrassed, so she continued. I just want to find someone to watch a movie with me. After all, it's pitiful to go to the movies alone. Lin Chen, let us not do that. I'm afraid I'll be malnourished. Shenmingqi suddenly felt a little lost. Okay then. Poor thing.jpg. Shenmingqi was holding a mobile phone, supporting her chin with one hand, and she felt worried for the first time in a long time. She didn't know why, but she always felt that Lin Chen's attitude towards her was ambiguous. The more he did this, the more itchy she felt. No, she must take down Lin Chen, even God can't change that. Shenmingqi secretly made up her mind. Chapter 15. Apologize in public. There was a military training mobilization meeting the next day. Lin Chen got up late and drove his Rolls-Royce Phantom directly out so as not to be late. When he arrived at the large conference room, he found that it was almost full. At this moment, Shenmingqi in the crowd suddenly stood up and waved towards Lin Chen. Lin Chen, here. I've saved a spot for you. Lin Chen looked around and found that the only empty seat was the one next to Shenmingqi, so he walked over and sat down. Thanks. Shenmingqi smiled sweetly. Why are you being so polite to me? Today, Shenmingqi wore a white slim-fit sweater and hot pants, which perfectly showed off her figure. This attracted the attention of some male classmates. Lin Chen couldn't help but say, "The senior is so charming. Many boys pay attention to her." Shenmingqi said coquettishly. "No, I see your attention is not on me either. Lin Chen did not answer her question directly, but asked. Senior sister, aren't you feeling choked? Shinmingqi was slightly stunned, and immediately understood what Lin Chen meant, and immediately looked worried. Oh. People with body shapes are the problem. Wearing loose clothes makes us look fat, and wearing tight clothes makes us look fat. She didn't continue speaking, but gave Lin Chen a look that said, you know what I mean. Then she sighed. I don't want to look fat, so I have to do this. All right. After Lin Chen said 2 words, he turned his gaze to the instructor at the podium. Looking at his profile, Shinmingqi's eyes flashed with a hint of triumphant smile. Seeing that Lin Chen had no intention of continuing to speak, Shinmingqi continued to find topics to talk about. Actually, this mobilization meeting doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter if you don't come. You just need to get the military training uniform. I can get it for you. Lin Chen said quickly. Since I'm already here, I won't bother you, senior. Lin Chen was a little uncomfortable with the enthusiasm of this senior schoolmate. All in all, they had only met 3 times. She invited him to dinner and a movie, and she also saved a seat for him. All right. Shinmingqi also knew when to stop. If she continued talking, Lin Chen might get offended. So she had no choice but to shut up and listen carefully to the instructor's speech. Zhu Kai, who was sitting not far away, focused his attention on Lin Chen the moment Lin Chen walked in. He had 2 heavy dark circles under his eyes and looked very haggard. He sent an apology message to Lin Chen yesterday, but Lin Chen did not reply, which made him unable to sleep well all night and he was very anxious. His family is just moderately well off, and he bought that BMW 5 Series with a loan. If he offended a hidden boss like Lin Chen and didn't handle it properly, he would be close to social death in Donghai University. There is almost no room for recovery. The more Zhu Kai thought about it, the more frightened he became, and a layer of sticky cold sweat broke out on his back. His college life has just begun, doesn't he want to die socially? Zhang He next to him asked. Brother Kai, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so bad? Are you sick? Zhu Kai didn't reply to him, but glanced at Lin Chen. It was break time now. Zhu Kai thought about it, then stood up and walked towards Lin Chen. When he arrived in front of Lin Chen, Zhu Kai bowed 90 degrees. Student Lin Chen, I'm sorry. I apologize to you for my recklessness and impoliteness yesterday. Chapter 16 Military Training. The sudden bow startled Lin Chen, and he was completely confused. Because of Zhu Kai's action, all the students present looked over here. Perhaps thinking that Lin Chen didn't hear clearly, Zhu Kai repeated it again and added a standard 90-degree bow. The students were confused. What's going on? Why should squad leader Zhu Kai apologize to him? I don't know. Who can tell us what happened? Lin Chen came back to his senses. You worry too much. I don't take it seriously. Zhu Kai felt crazy when he heard this. If you don't take it to heart, then why don't you reply to my message? But although he thought so in his heart, he didn't dare to show it. Thanks. After expressing his thanks, Zhu Kai sat back in his seat and breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Chen looked puzzled. He turned around and saw Shinmingqi's inquiring expression, then spread his hands helplessly. He really didn't take it to heart and didn't expect that Zhu Kai would apologize to him in public. Soon, the military training mobilization meeting ended. After receiving the military training uniforms, the students left the classroom one after another. And Shinmingqi also left early because of something. Lin Chen took his military training uniform and prepared to leave. Downstairs, Song Qingwan looked at the Rolls-Royce Phantom with a hint of doubt in her beautiful eyes. This is her favorite car, no doubt about it. Huh? There's actually someone driving a Rolls-Royce Phantom in school. How come I didn't notice it before? Could he be a new student? Just as she was confused, Lin Chen came out. She was just about to go up and say hello, but she saw Lin Chen get into the Rolls-Royce Phantom and leave in style. Song Qingwan was so shocked that the documents in her hands fell to the ground. Is that Rolls-Royce Phantom Lin Chen's? Lin Chen didn't know about this little episode. He went straight back to his own room. As soon as I returned to the villa, I received a message from Song Qingwan. Song Qingwan, Junior, you will have military training tomorrow. Here are some friendly reminders for you. Prepare at least a pair of softer and thicker insoles, and sunscreen is essential. Song Qingwan, otherwise, you can only pray to the instructor to let you tan more evenly. Seeing the last sentence, Lin Chen couldn't help but laugh. How to tan a more even sun. As a straight man, Lin Chen naturally didn't know the power of sunscreen. But it's quite late now, so I guess I can only buy it tomorrow. The next day, because it was the first day of military training, everyone got up early. The entire campus is almost full of people in camouflage. Lin Chen and his team's instructors were unlucky and were assigned a playground without any shade as their training ground. The weather in September, although it is early autumn, is still terribly hot. The playground where Lin Chen and his classmates were was like a huge steamer, and they, the students, were the steamed buns in the steamer, steaming hot. At the end of the first day, Lin Chen looked at his arms with obvious black and white lines, and his face was filled with dismay. The military training lasts for half a month. He now understood what Song Qingwan meant when she said that if they didn't use sunscreen, they could only pray to the instructor to allow them to get a more even tan. Lin Chen sighed, took out his phone, found Song Qingwan's profile picture, and clicked on it. "Senior, can you tell me which brand of sunscreen is the best?" Song Qingwan couldn't help but smile when she received the news. "Song Qingwan, I bought a lot of small gold bottle sunscreen at the last event. I still have several bottles here that have not been opened. I guess I can't use them all. Can I give you a bottle tomorrow?" "Lin Chen, how can I feel embarrassed about this?" "Song Qingwan, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just a bottle of sunscreen." "Lin Chen, okay then, I'll treat you to a meal after the military training." After chatting for a few minutes, Lin Chen put down his phone and went to take a shower. The next day, everyone lined up. The instructor said with a serious face, "Yesterday, our class monitor saw a message on your campus network. A freshman complained that our military training was not strict enough and did not train him well. So we decided to increase the difficulty." As soon as these words came out, there was a burst of complaints from the audience. This is not what a freshman said. It is obviously a prank by sophomores and juniors. Only the instructors would take it seriously. But the ones who suffer are these freshmen. Seeing the freshman complaining, the instructor immediately became unhappy. "Look at you all, how can you be so weak that you can't even withstand a punch from me? Intensifying the training is also to strengthen your bodies." Lin Chen, who was standing at the back, was suddenly startled because he received another task from the system. Chapter 17, Competing with the Instructor. Beep. Congratulations to the host for triggering the plot mission, challenge the instructor, and be rewarded with top-level fighting skills valid for life. Lin Chen looked at the instructor's sturdy physique, gritted his teeth, and raised his hand. "Instructor, I don't agree with you." Swish. Everyone's eyes fell on Lin Chen, some were surprised, some were puzzled, and some were gloating. The instructor frowned. "Step out." Hearing this, Lin Chen walked out of the queue and stared at the instructor in front of him with neither arrogance nor servility. "No matter what, we must not lose in momentum. Do you have any objection?" the instructor asked. Lin Chen spoke slowly. "Just now the instructor said that we are so weak that we can't even withstand a punch from you. I disagree with this statement. So, I want to compete with you, instructor." The instructor was stunned, and the other students gasped. What did they hear? Lin Chen wanted to compete with the instructor. Who gave him the courage, LJR? But Lin Chen was not panicked at all, because the moment he finished speaking, the system appeared. Congratulations to the host for completing the mission and obtaining top-level fighting skills. Host, would you like to use it now? Lin Chen's mind moved slightly. Use. Boom. A large amount of fighting knowledge flooded into Lin Chen's brain, as if he was a person with many years of fighting experience. At the same time, he also felt that his body was full of strength, as if it was about to explode at any time. Looking at Lin Chen's thin arms and legs, the instructor laughed. Are you sure you want to compete with me? I'm afraid I'll knock you down with one punch. Lin Chen stood in place, moving his joints. Instructor, knock me down first. The instructor laughed angrily and rushed forward with his fist raised. Lin Chen dodged to the side and threw the instructor to the ground over his shoulder. The whole audience was shocked. What did they just see? Lin Chen, he threw the instructor to the ground. This is too scary. The instructor on the ground was confused, but he quickly reacted. Good boy, you're quite capable. As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed towards Lin Chen again. But this time, he didn't dare underestimate the enemy. Just as he rushed over, Lin Chen swept his leg and the instructor fell to the ground again. Good. The students around burst into loud cheers. Awesome. Lin Chen is so handsome, love love love. This is so manly, it gives me a full sense of security. Fuck, Lin Chen is awesome. The instructor stood up and admitted defeat. You are so good, kid. I can't beat you. I admit defeat. Thank you. After saying these 3 words, Lin Chen planned to return to the queue. Unexpectedly, the instructor called him. Wait a moment. Lin Chen turned around with some doubts. What's wrong? The instructor continued. It's like this, I think you have good abilities, why don't you be my assistant teacher? Mum? Teaching assistant. Lin Chen was confused. As an assistant teacher, you will help me train them. This way you don't have to train, and you can rest in a cooler place. Most importantly, you can get extra credits. The instructor spoke slowly. Lin Chen nodded. That's fine. The students were filled with envy, jealousy and hatred. Why is it that, although they both have 9 years of compulsory education, Lin Chen is the one being trained while they are being trained? They also want to stay in the shade. The instructor glanced at everyone. Are you jealous? You can do the same if you can beat me. Everyone shut up immediately. Let them defeat the instructor. What a joke. After that, Lin Chen felt much more relaxed. He only needed to shout slogans and train them. Delicious. At this moment, Lin Chen saw a familiar figure not far away, waving at him. Lin Chen reported to the instructor, then left the queue and walked over. Chapter 18 Sumo fell down. Senior, what's wrong? Lin Chen asked. Today, Song Qingwan wore a simple white t-shirt and jeans. Her hair was braided into a pigtail and hung on one side, and even her bangs were carefully curled. She must have been in a hurry, her bangs were slightly wet and her cheeks were rosy. Song Qingwan took out a small bottle of something from her cross-body bag and handed it to Lin Chen. Hey, did you forget? Sunscreen. Lin Chen was slightly stunned. He had indeed forgotten about this. Because he was having such a good time just now, he just shouted slogans and didn't bask in the sun at all. Although he might not need this sunscreen anymore, Song Qingwan had given it to him, so how could he not accept it? Lin Chen took the sunscreen and said gratefully. Thank you, senior. Then, Song Qingwan started searching in her bag again. Wait, I have something else for you. As she spoke, she handed Lin Chen another small bottle. This is an after-sun repair essence. It can also whiten your skin. Go back and apply it on the tanned areas. It should be white again. Senior, you are so thoughtful. Looking at the bottles and jars in his hands, Lin Chen praised sincerely. Song Qingwan smiled sweetly, and her beautiful eyes curved into crescents. I still have plenty anyway. Then, Song Qingwan asked again. Lin Chen, why did I see you didn't train with them just now? Lin Chen looked back at the team and said. I am now an assistant teacher, specializing in training them. Har. Song Qingwan was a little dumbfounded. What was going on? Did I hear you correctly? You train them? Lin Chen nodded. Song Qingwan was completely confused now. Why can you train them? Aren't you a freshman too? Shouldn't you be training with them? Her cute look made Lin Chen laugh uncontrollably, and even made him want to play with her. I don't know. Maybe the instructor thinks I'm handsome. Song Qingwan was slightly stunned. You're just a talker. As she spoke, she stuffed the iced lemon grapefruit tea in her hand into his hand. I won't talk to you anymore. I'm leaving. Carrot HMPH. After saying that, she turned and left. Don't forget to look back. When the military training is over, don't forget to treat me to a meal. Lin Chen smiled and waved at her. When Lin Chen returned, he found that everyone was resting and forming a circle, while in the middle of the venue, several girls in the class were dancing enthusiastically. Many boys watched with great interest, and from time to time discussed which girl had a better figure and which girl was prettier. Lin Chen found an empty seat and sat down, drinking his honey grapefruit tea. Brother, that's great. I didn't expect you could win the heart of the Song University campus beauty. A boy named Zhang Cheng looked at Lin Chen and teased. After taking a sip of lemon grapefruit tea, Lin Chen grinned. I don't know what you're talking about. Zhang Cheng had an expression of, I understand all. Huh? You're still pretending. That's not nice enough. We all saw it just now. The milk tea in your hand was given to you by the campus beauty of Song University, right? Lin Chen was about to speak when the instructor started talking. After saying a lot, the general meaning is to play a game, or a game of throwing the handkerchief. Lin Chen just felt a little bored. After playing a few rounds, Lin Chen felt so sleepy that he started yawning. This time, Sumo was chosen. According to the rules of the game, she had to throw the handkerchief behind someone without anyone noticing before the song was finished. Her eyes instantly fell on Lin Chen, and she immediately paid attention to him. Lin Chen shook his head helplessly, thinking that she was really stupid. Her eyes had already told him her thoughts clearly. Sure enough, she threw the object in her hand behind Lin Chen. Lin Chen reacted quickly, stood up and chased after him with the object in hand. Sumo suddenly panicked, her foot twisted, and she fell to the ground. Everyone was shocked. Chapter 19. It's time to treat the senior sister to dinner. Lin Chen subconsciously rushed over and helped her. Are you okay? Lin Chen asked. Sumo shook her head, tears in her eyes, and her lips turned white from the pain. My ankle is sprained. Sumo said in a low voice. Lin Chen quickly squatted down to help her check her injuries and found that her ankle was swollen. He immediately reported to the instructor and sent her to the infirmary. On the way, Sumo looked up at Lin Chen's resolute chin, her heart beating wildly and she couldn't calm down. After coming out of the infirmary, Lin Chen took her directly to the bottom of the dormitory building. Can you go up by yourself? Lin Chen asked. Sumo nodded. I can do that. She paused and continued. Thank you, Lin Chen. Lin Chen smiled. It's my fault, if I hadn't chased you, you wouldn't have fallen. Hearing Lin Chen say this, Sumo became a little anxious and said quickly. I don't blame you. Lin Chen was stunned for a moment. Why is she reacting so strongly? Coming back to her senses, Sumo also felt that she had overreacted, and quickly explained. Don't blame you, it was my own carelessness. Oh, I'm back. After saying this, she limped away into the dormitory building. After finally reaching the second floor, she leaned on the window and looked downstairs, only to find that Lin Chen was gone. She suddenly felt a little lost in her heart. The more than 10 days of military training passed quickly. Except for Lin Chen, all the boys in the class got several degrees darker. Lin Chen, who was exercising on the treadmill in the villa gym, suddenly stopped. Beep. Congratulations to their host for triggering the plot mission. Invite Song Qingwan to dinner, and be rewarded with 30% of Jiachen Company's shares. Lin Chen sat on the bench and almost forgot that he still owed Song Qingwan a meal. After all, it was because of her sunscreen that he was saved from becoming a piece of coal. He took out his cell phone and sent a WeChat message to Song Qingwan. Lin Chen, senior sister, when are you free? I still owe you a meal. Song Qingwan replied almost immediately, how about tomorrow at noon? Lin Chen, yes. It just so happens that he has no classes tomorrow. The next day, a Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked downstairs of the girls' dormitory. Everyone who passed by was amazed. This car is so cool. It looks like it's very expensive. This is a Rolls-Royce Phantom, it must be worth tens of millions. Awesome. Which rich young man is waiting for a girlfriend? Lin Chen, who was in the driver's seat, sent a voice message to Song Qingwan, asking her when she would come down. As soon as the message was sent, Song Qingwan was seen coming downstairs. Song Qingwan seemed to have dressed up specially today. She wore a one-shoulder white dress, her hair tied into a bun, and 2 strands of dragon whisker bangs hanging on her cheeks, making her face look even smaller. As soon as she went downstairs, Song Qingwan saw the eye-catching Rolls-Royce Phantom and walked straight towards her. Everyone around was stunned. What's going on? So this car is waiting for the campus beauty of Song University. Song University's campus beauty doesn't like dating. Is she the one that got picked up by a rich second-generation Rolls-Royce Phantom? Sure enough, the claim of not being in love is fake. Lin Chen also got out of the car and opened the other door for her. Song Qingwan hesitated to speak, and finally sat in the passenger seat obediently. This is her favorite car, she really wants to drive it and try out the feel of it. Seeing Song Qingwan looking at his driving seat from time to time, Lin Chen asked. Senior, do you want to try it? Song Qingwan's eyes lit up. May I? Lin Chen nodded, got out of the car and exchanged seats with her. Song Qingwan, sitting in the driver's seat of the Rolls-Royce Phantom, was extremely excited. She stepped on the accelerator and the sound of the V12 engine exploded. Song Qingwan's face turned red with excitement. Lin Chen lazily leaned back in his seat and said teasingly, "I didn't expect that the senior sister is such an experienced driver." Chapter 20. The company crisis is resolved. Of course. Song Qingwan glanced at him proudly, turned her head away, and drove the car seriously, experiencing the pleasure of driving the Rolls-Royce Phantom. Yujian Western Restaurant. The cool Rolls-Royce stopped at the door, attracting everyone's attention. No one wanted to miss the person who drove such a luxury car. Everyone was amazed when they saw Song Qingwan, whose beauty was close to perfect, come down from the driver's seat. Many men present were about to approach and strike up a conversation, but when they saw Lin Chen getting out of the passenger seat, they froze in place. The expressions on their faces became indescribable. It turns out that she already has a gigolo. They looked at Lin Chen, wishing they could replace him. After finishing the meal, the mechanical voice of the system immediately sounded. "Congratulations to their host for completing the mission, and you will be rewarded with 30% of the shares of Jiachen Company." Lin Chen was excited. He had heard of Jiachen Company, one of the leading enterprises in Donghai City. In other words, he is now the major shareholder of Jiachen Company. "Are you a winner in life?" Song Qingwan looked at Lin Chen with some doubt. "What's wrong with you? Why are you so happy all of a sudden?" Lin Chen looked at her gratefully. "Senior, you are also my lucky star." Song Qingwan. She naturally didn't notice the word "also." Office of the Chairman of Jiachen Company. Jiang Li, dressed in a professional suit, sat in an office chair, rubbing his slightly aching temple with one hand. Recently, Jiachen Company's capital chain has had problems. She hasn't had a good night's sleep for several days and looks a little haggard. Originally, they found a company that could invest, but their boss was too greedy. If they agreed to their conditions, even if Jiachen could survive this crisis, it would be seriously damaged. What's more, they want not only Jiachen's shares, but also her. This is what Jiang Li can't tolerate the most. "Chairman, Chairman." The anxious voice of Secretary Zhang Yuanyuan came from the door. Jiang Li frowned slightly. "What's the matter? You look so flustered." "Our company's capital chain problem has been solved." "What?" Jiang Li was so shocked that he stood up from his seat. "Can you say that again?" Zhang Yuanyuan was obviously also very excited. "Just now, a man named Lin Chen injected 500 million in cash flow at one time, and our company's capital chain crisis can be resolved." Jiang Li's tightly furrowed brows finally relaxed, and his whole body relaxed from the tense state. Coming back to her senses, she looked at Zhang Yuanyuan. "What's the name of that gentleman you just mentioned?" Zhang Yuanyuan said quickly. "Lin Chen." "Lin Chen?" Jiang Li was shocked. Could it be her neighbor? As soon as this idea came up, it was rejected. Jiang Li smiled helplessly. How could it be him? He is still so young. Even if he has money, it will cost hundreds of millions to take over Yunshuijian. Where would he get 500 million? It should be the same name and surname. Zhang Yuanyuan asked. "Chairman, do you want me to contact Mr. Lin and have him handle the handover procedures?" Jiang Li nodded, her red lips slightly parted. "Well, go ahead." On this side, Lin Chen had just sent Song Qingwan back to the school dormitory when he received a call. "Hello, are you Mr. Lin Chen?" It was a very polite voice, with a hint of respect. "I am, who are you?" The other end of the phone said. "I am Sun Feifei, the legal officer of Jiachen Group." "Excuse me, are you free recently? Your relevant certificates are ready. Would you like to find some time to come to our company to handle the handover? Or if you don't have time to come, we can go find you." Lin Chen was slightly surprised. The system had just given him the shares, but he didn't expect Jiachen's people to be so efficient. He looked at the time. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He happened to have nothing to do in the afternoon, so he said, "I'm free now, please send me the location." Sun Feifei was slightly stunned. "Okay, then we'll get ready right away and look forward to your arrival." At the same time, the entire Jiachen company was in an uproar. Secretary Zhang just issued an order that a distinguished guest will come to our company. I wonder which client it is that requires such a grand ceremony. That's not right. When we met with big foreign clients before, it wasn't so grand. Didn't we hear rumors a while ago that our company had capital problems? Could this distinguished guest be related to resolving this crisis? Jiang Li, who was in the chairman's office, also tidied up her appearance as quickly as possible, waiting for Lin Chen's arrival. She couldn't help but start to doubt again. Was it Lin Chen who helped their company solve the capital chain problem? Just then, her cell phone rang. Seeing the note displayed on the phone, a hint of disgust flashed across Jiang Li's beautiful eyes, but she still pressed the answer button. Mr. Jiang, have you considered it? We want 30% of the shares for the 100 million yuan. If you have considered it, come to the hotel tonight. Chapter 21. It's really Lin Chen. Before he could finish, Jiang Li interrupted him. Mr. Zhang, that's not necessary. After saying that, she hung up the phone. 100 million in capital, and you want 30% of the shares. Is that a joke? That Mr. Lin directly invested 500 million. Mr. Zhang on the other end of the phone looked at his phone in disbelief, completely dumbfounded. Jiang Li, how dare you hang up the phone on him? By then, Jiang Li will beg him crying. On this side, Lin Chen had already arrived downstairs at the company. After registering with the security guard, he walked into the company. After taking a few steps, I heard a scolding. Hey, what do you do? Are you here to apply for a job? Lin Chen turned around in confusion, only to see a middle-aged man in a suit looking at him domineeringly. Seeing that Lin Chen didn't speak, he continued. Hurry up and leave, we're not hiring today. Then he looked at the security guard not far away. What are you doing? Don't you know that there are distinguished guests coming today? Why let these strangers in? Lin Chen is now completely famous. At this moment, a female voice came. Manager Zhu, what are you arguing about? Seeing the visitor, Manager Zhu immediately flattered. Director Sun, these security guards are ignorant and let people in without permission. Lin Chen looked at the woman in professional attire. Director Sun Feifei. Hearing this, Sun Feifei was stunned. Are you Mr. Lin Chen Lin? Lin Chen nodded. Manager Zhu's face turned pale instantly. He seemed to remember that the distinguished guest was called Lin Chen. Sun Feifei was also shocked. She never expected that Mr. Lin was so young and handsome. Just now, Manager Zhu almost had Mr. Lin kicked out. Sun Feifei was frightened. After all, they haven't taken over yet. If Lin Chen suddenly changes his mind, wouldn't their company be finished? Thinking of this, she glared at Manager Zhu coldly. Do you know what stupid thing you just did? Me? Manager Zhu was sweating profusely and couldn't utter a complete sentence. Sun Feifei's tone was cold. This Mr. Lin invested 500 million in Jiacheng all at once. He is Jiacheng's savior. Who do you think you are? How dare you disrespect him? I'm going to the finance department to get my salary now. I don't need to come tomorrow. I believe the chairman will support my decision. After saying that, Sun Feifei turned to Lin Chen. Mr. Lin, we are really sorry for such a big oversight on our part. Fine. Afterwards, Sun Feifei took Lin Chen to the chairman's office on the top floor. Manager Zhu stood there with a dejected look on his face, full of regret. But no matter how much he regretted it, it was of no avail. Chairman's office. As soon as Lin Chen entered the door, he saw a familiar figure sitting on the office chair. Jiang Li? Lin Chen was shocked. Jiang Li is the chairman of Jiacheng Company? Jiang Li raised his head upon hearing the noise, and the next second, he looked stunned. Lin Chen. Is it really you? Sun Feifei was confused. She looked at Lin Chen and then at Jiang Li. Chairman, Mr. Lin, do you know each other? Lin Chen smiled. We are more than acquaintances. We are neighbors. Jiang Li also laughed. Earlier, when I learned that a man named Lin Chen had injected 500 million yuan into our company, I immediately thought of you, but I didn't dare to believe it. I didn't expect it to be you. Lin Chen sat on the soft sofa and said with a smile. It's fate. Jiang Li also sat opposite him. Zhang Yuan immediately made 2 cups of tea and placed them in front of the two of them. By the way, did you know that something happened in my company, so you came to help me? Jiang Li said with a smile. Chapter 22, Really a Fox. Lin Chen glanced at her. I said no, do you believe it? Jiang Li smiled and narrowed her beautiful peach blossom eyes slightly. No. Lin Chen spread his hands. She didn't believe it, but there was nothing she could do. He really knew nothing, and these 30% shares were a reward from the system. However, if she insists on thinking so, then let her be. Then she continued. Mr. Lin is young and promising. I like him very much. Jiang Li smiled, her eyes full of cunning. She didn't know why, but she always liked to tease Lin Chen. Lin Chen coughed twice. Mr. Jiang, thank you for your compliment. Jiang Li smiled and did not continue the previous topic. She picked up the teacup on the table, took a sip, and said slowly. I imported a large number of skin care products from abroad, but something went wrong. I invested a lot of money, but the goods were stuck in the warehouse, and our company was unable to make ends meet. In other words, your 500 million almost saved the entire Jiachen. You are also the benefactor of our Jiachen. Jiang Li put the teacup on the table and looked at Lin Chen seriously. Lin Chen felt a little scared when he was looked at. But after a moment, Jiang Li laughed softly. Tell me, I owe you such a big favor, how can I thank you? How about I pledge my love to you? Lin Chen, who was drinking tea, was choked. Is it so direct? Mr. Jiang, please stop joking. I'm just a student. Lin Chen said helplessly. Jiang Li is really a fox, it's impossible to play with him. Hearing this, Jiang Li raised her eyebrows. A student? From Tunghai University. Lin Chen nodded. Freshman. What a coincidence. Donghai University is also my alma mater, but I have graduated for several years. In that case, you still have to call me senior. Jiang Li smiled sweetly. Lin Chen. Another senior? Before Lin Chen could speak, Jiang Li said. I'm very curious. You just bought Yaju Yunshuijian in full, and now you're injecting 500 million into me. Where did you get so much money? As she spoke, she pushed the bangs on one side of her face behind her ear and looked at Lin Chen. What a fox! At this moment, Lin Chen had only this one thought in his mind. Her every move reveals her charm. After saying this, Jiang Li realized that what he said was inappropriate, so he said with a little apology. I'm sorry, I was rude just now. We are in a cooperative relationship, and it's not my place to ask about Mr. Lin's assets. Lin Chen was slightly stunned, and it took him a few seconds to realize that Jiang Li thought he was angry. Fine. Lin Chen said. Because of the incident just now, Jiang Li was a little dazed. The teacup in his hand shook and the tea spilled on his collar. Well. Jiang Li took off his suit jacket and wiped the water stains on his white shirt in a hurry. Lin Chen took the tissue beside him and handed it to her. Wipe it. The shirt and hip skirt show off Jiang Li's graceful figure. What a monster! Lin Chen couldn't help but say in his heart. Thanks. Jiang Li thanked him while wiping his clothes with a tissue, feeling very annoyed at the same time. How could she be so embarrassed in front of Lin Chen? It's so embarrassing. Thinking of this, Jiang Li's ears turned slightly red, and even her cheeks were stained with two blushes. Looking at the messy clothes, Jiang Li gave up trying to save him and sighed. I'm going to change my clothes. Seeing this, Lin Chen was about to stand up. Then I'll step aside. Jiang Li shook his head. No, just wait for me here. I have a cubicle in my office. Chapter 23 Equity Handover Ceremony. Good. Then, Jiang Li went straight into the compartment and closed the door. Lin Chen drank tea while visiting Jiang Li's office. He found that Jiang Li had good taste. Their whole office was comfortably decorated, and there were several calligraphy and paintings hanging on the wall. Soon, Jiang Li changed into a white shirt. Jiang Li said a little embarrassedly. I'm sorry to make you laugh. Lin Chen shook his head. No problem. Let's go to the conference room and start the equity handover ceremony. Jiang Li said. Good. As soon as they went out, they saw Secretary Zhang Yuanyuan standing guard outside the door. Chairman, the conference room is ready and waiting for you and Mr. Lin. As she spoke, she unconsciously glanced at Jiang Li's shirt. Jiang Li didn't notice her little action and just nodded. Okay, I understand. After saying that, Jiang Li took Lin Chen directly to the meeting room. She remembered that Mr. Jiang didn't seem to be wearing this dress today. Moreover, the two of them had been in there for so long, and there were strange noises. When he came out, Mr. Jiang had changed his clothes and his cheeks were slightly flushed. After connecting so many clues together, Zhang Yuan was so shocked that she covered her mouth. Isn't he this too exciting? The two were unaware of Zhang Yuan's thoughts. As soon as they entered the conference room, everyone inside stood up, and Lin Chen and Jiang Li walked to the two main seats and sat down. The moment they saw Lin Chen, everyone was shocked. Isn't he Mr. Lin, who invested 500 million yuan, too young? It's really frustrating to compare yourself with others. When they were their age, they were probably still in school, while Mr. Lin has already become a major shareholder of a company. Everyone please sit down. Jiang Li said. Lin Chen couldn't help but look at Jiang Li a few times. He didn't expect Jiang Li to be so aloof. She looked like a queen with a strong aura. However, when she starts to tease people, she becomes a cunning fox. As soon as Jiang Li turned her head, she met Lin Chen's gaze. These are all our Jiaqing's senior management. Lin Chen nodded and said nothing. Jiang Li continued to speak to the people below. I believe everyone has heard that Jiaqing encountered a crisis some time ago and its capital chain was broken. Fortunately, Mr. Lin invested 500 million yuan, which enabled us to survive this crisis. Mr. Lin Chen is the benefactor of our entire Jiaqing. As soon as he finished speaking, there was warm applause from the audience. Lin Chen also noticed that when she was speaking, everyone was very serious and no one was distracted. It is conceivable that they are quite in awe of this beautiful female president. Afterwards, Lin Chen stood up, said a few polite words, and then entered the next step, the share handover ceremony. Sun Feifei came up with a tray with some documents and 2 pens on it. Jiang Li was the first to sign her name, graceful yet powerful. On Lin Chen's side, his writing was vigorous and powerful. After seeing Lin Chen's words on the large display screen, Jiang Li couldn't help but look at him with some admiration. Why does she feel that this Lin Chen is becoming more and more interesting? After the handover ceremony, Lin Chen left surrounded by senior executives. When they reached the door, Jiang Li suddenly said, "Let's go have a meal together. You've helped me so much, I'll treat you." Good. Lin Chen didn't think much about it and agreed directly. Donghai Pearl Hotel. Just as I reached the door, a voice came. Jiang Li. Chapter 24. He invested 500 million. Hearing this voice, Jiang Li's body stiffened slightly. He turned around and looked at the person coldly. Mr. Zhang. Lin Chen also looked over and saw that the person who came was a middle-aged bald man with a big belly and a pair of triangular eyes that seemed to be sticking to Jiang Li. When he saw Lin Chen, he looked him up and down, then smiled contemptuously. You came to a date and brought a pretty boy with you. Go to an appointment. Lin Chen was confused. Jiang Li also frowned. Before, she went to ask Mr. Zhang to invest in Jiaqing, but Mr. Zhang not only lowered the price, but also set his sights on her. If she had known that he had chosen this place, Jiang Li would never have brought Lin Chen here. I don't know what Mr. Zhang is talking about. I'm here to treat you today. Dinner. Mr. Zhang's eyes fell on Lin Chen. You're not going to tell me it's this guy. Jiang Li's face darkened. This is my guest, please speak with respect, Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. You want me to be respectful to such a yellow-haired boy? Lin Chen was completely confused. What does this have to do with him? How did it get to him? Who can tell him what happened? After laughing enough, Mr. Zhang continued. It seems that Mr. Jiang no longer needs my investment. He sneered, his words full of threats. Jiang Li glanced at Lin Chen and said, Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Zhang. We don't need Jiaqing anymore. Jiang Li deliberately emphasized the word good intentions. Mr. Zhang was stunned. He never expected Jiang Li to say such a thing. In his opinion, if Jiaqing Company has no source of funds, it will be difficult to survive. Could it be that Jiang Li has found the source of funds? Jiang Li sneered and continued. Mr. Lin has already injected 500 million yuan into Jiaqing at one time. Therefore, we don't need Mr. Zhang's help anymore. After saying that, she looked at Lin Chen. Let's go in. Lin Chen nodded, glanced at the petrified Mr. Zhang, and followed Jiang Li in. Mr. Zhang stood there blankly, unable to come back to his senses for a long time. Are you kidding? A one-time investment of 500 million. That kid is only in his 20s. Where does he get so much money at his age? Could it be that he is a young master from a noble family, and the one who invested 500 million was not him, but the elder in their family? Thinking of this, Mr. Zhang quickly made a phone call. Help me check whether Jurchen Company has found the source of funds, and by the way, check the details of the person who invested in them. Here, Jiang Li and Lin Chen were already sitting in the box. Thinking of what happened just now, Jiang Li smiled bitterly. I just made you laugh. Who is that person? Lin Chen asked. It was Zhang Daguan, the general manager of Sino Ocean Group. Our company was isolated and helpless due to the capital chain crisis, so I went to ask him for help. He was willing to invest, but the conditions he offered were very harsh and excessive. Jiang Li didn't want to say what came next. After hearing this, Lin Chen probably knew what had happened. It's nothing more than that old pervert Zhang Daguan wants to use this to threaten Jiang Li to give herself to him. It's hard for her. After a short while, Jiang Li calmed down and said with a smile. So, I owe you a big favor. If you need any help from Sister Li in the future, just let me know as long as I can do it. Hearing this, Lin Chen suddenly had a teasing and amusing expression on his face. Oh? Anything is fine as long as you can do it. Chapter 25, 100,000 yuan of wine. Jiang Li is so generous. Jiang Li was a little surprised and raised her eyebrows slightly. What do you want to do? Lin Chen laughed twice. I haven't thought about it yet. I'll talk about it later. Jiang Li smiled and said nothing more. After dinner, since they both lived opposite each other, they went back to Shui and Yaju together. After arriving at the pickup house, the two returned to their own villas. After taking a shower, Lin Chen put on a loose bathrobe and sat in the living room watching a movie. His eyes suddenly caught sight of the 2 bottles of red wine that Jiang Li sent him last time, and an idea suddenly came to his mind. He took out a red wine glass and filled it up, then took a photo and posted it to his moments with the caption, "Enjoy life." Within a few minutes, there were several comments. Li Shenjian, what a jerk! It seems you are doing well, you even drank 100,000 bottles of wine. Zhu Qian, drinking too much fake alcohol is bad for your health. Smile. Shenminqi, oh, enjoy your life without taking me with you. The first one was his good friend in high school, and the second one was his classmate in junior high school, the most beautiful girl in the class, the best among all the girls. It seemed that I heard that she dropped out of school after junior high school. However, Lin Chen was startled and sat up directly from the sofa. 100,000 worth of wine. Lin Chen was checking the internet with his mobile phone. French Lumiere Winery Musigny Grand Cru Dry Red. The name is strangely long. International average price, 92,594 yuan. Just giving away wine worth $200,000 is really generous. Just then, Jiang Li sent a message. Jiang Li, I just saw your circle of friends. This is my favorite wine. How does it taste? Is it delicious? Lin Chen, it tastes good. Jiang Li, as long as it tastes good tilde. Soon after, Shenminqi also sent a message. Shenminqi, Junior, you really know how to enjoy life. I've also been learning to cook recently, Junior, take a look at how it goes. Afterwards, she sent me some photos of the delicious food she made in the dormitory. Lin Chen, 1T the illegal electrical appliances be confiscated. Shenminqi, they don't dare to accept mine. Lin Chen, the weather is dry, be careful of fire. After saying this, Lin Chen put down his phone. The next day, Lin Chen got up early and drove to have breakfast. Business was quite brisk in the morning, and Lin Chen finally found a parking space. As soon as I sat down and ordered some egg dumplings and crystal buns, I heard a noise next to me. Oh my god! There's a Rolls-Royce Phantom outside. Awesome! I wonder whose car this is. There aren't many luxury cars in Donghai City, but I didn't expect to see one here. How rich does one have to be to spend so much money on this car? There were a few young people, and they started talking as soon as they found a place to sit down. A girl sitting at the table next to them immediately pricked up her ears. Lin Chen also glanced at them indifferently, said nothing, and ate his breakfast silently. The girl looked around the store several times and her eyes finally fell on an old man. The uncle was about 40 years old, wearing a suit that looked not cheap. Even his leather shoes were polished to a shine. His hair was combed back and tied into a small ponytail. He also has the air of a successful person. The young men seemed to have noticed him as well, and began to discuss in low voices with their heads lowered. It should be that uncle, right? His suit looks very expensive. I think it's him. I didn't expect that someone who drives a luxury car would be so down to earth and come to a place like this for breakfast. I'm so jealous. I wish I could drive a luxury car like that. The girl seemed to have made up her mind. She took out a makeup mirror, touched up her makeup, put on a smile that she thought was her best, and walked towards the uncle with her breakfast. Hello, sir, can I share a table with you? The uncle was stunned, then nodded. She was delighted and sat opposite the uncle. She pretended to lift her hair and threw him a few seductive glances. Your car is so beautiful, can I sit in the passenger seat? Lin Chen next to him couldn't help but almost laughed out loud. The girl glanced at Lin Chen unhappily, then turned to the uncle and put on a smile again. The uncle nodded in confusion. His Nissan, isn't it beautiful? After finishing breakfast, Lin Chen wiped his mouth with a tissue, then stood up and walked out. With one step, the roar of the V12 engine exploded, and the Rolls-Royce Phantom disappeared without a trace. Several people in the store were dumbfounded. That Rolls-Royce Phantom, is it the one owned by the young man just now? Chapter 26. Shenmingqi's loving breakfast. Especially the girl, who glared at the uncle with an angry look on her face. That Rolls-Royce Phantom isn't yours? The uncle nodded blankly. No, I drive a Nissan. Bang. The girl stood up and said angrily. Why didn't you tell me earlier? You're wasting my time. I don't want to eat anymore. After saying that, she left angrily. She regretted chatting up the wrong person. I should have found that little brother earlier. On this side, Lin Chen has already arrived in the classroom. Not long after I sat down, a girl next to me came over and whispered. Lin Chen, thank you. Lin Chen was confused. Thank me for what? If he remembered correctly, this girl's name seemed to be Chu Qianqian. Chu Qianqian smiled sweetly and said. It's because of you that I became the class monitor. Now Lin Chen was even more confused. Isn't the squad leader Zhu Kai? When Chu Qianqian heard Lin Chen's words, a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes. Zhu Kai changed his major, didn't you know? They all said that Zhu Kai changed his major because of you. I became the class monitor only after Zhu Kai left. Lin Chen. Zhu Kai, was he scared away by himself? Well, I don't know anything. Chu Qianqian wanted to say something else, but then her foreign language teacher came in and she immediately shut her mouth. During this period, Chu Qianqian wanted to talk to Lin Chen several times, but seeing that he was listening to the class seriously, she did not disturb him. It was just break time and Lin Chen was about to lie down on the table for a nap when a familiar voice came. Lin Chen, come out for a moment. Hearing this, Lin Chen looked up towards the door. Shenmingqi? What does she want to do with herself? When Lin Chen was puzzled, Shenmingqi waved at him. Lin Chen had no choice but to get up and walk out. Shenmingqi handed 2 exquisite bags to Lin Chen and said softly. I guess you didn't have breakfast, so I brought you some egg tarts and milk tea. The people around immediately started to make a noise. Wow! Breakfast with love. I envy you, I am a lemon. I am a lemon. Why can't I meet such a considerate senior? Listening to the words around her, Shenmingqi's cheeks turned red with embarrassment. Lin Chen looked at the bag in his hand and said embarrassedly. Oh, senior, I'm having breakfast, why don't you take it back and eat it yourself? Shenmingqi's expression froze for a moment, but returned to normal after a moment. It's okay, you can eat it as a snack. This is the egg tart I baked myself, how can you refuse it? The booing at the back became even more cheerful. Lin Chen had no choice but to accept it. Thank you, senior. Shenmingqi suddenly became happy, squinted her eyes and smiled. It's okay, I'll go back first. Lin Chen took the bag back to his seat. As soon as he opened it, the aroma of egg tarts hit his nose. Millimeter, it smells really good and is still hot. There were 6 in total, and he had eaten breakfast in the morning, so he couldn't eat so much. Lin Chen glanced at Chu Qianqian next to him and handed one over. Do you want to eat? Chu Qianqian shook her head. Eat it, I'm trying to lose weight recently. Lin Chen glanced at her figure and shook his head. You want to lose weight with your current condition? If you lose more, you will become an adult. Come on, eat a full meal so you can have the energy to lose weight. Having said that, Lin Chen stuffed the egg tart directly into her hand. Chu Qianqian had no choice but to start eating, praising while eating. It's delicious. Sumo, who was sitting not far away, glanced at Lin Chen, then at the egg tart in his hand, silently picked up her cell phone, and found the sister dialogue box. Su Dao, can you make egg tarts? Chapter 27 Sisters Love begins. Soon, Su Dao replied. Su Dao, yes, what's wrong, do you want to eat? Sumo, no, I want to learn. There was a pause for a while before someone sent a message. Su Dao, sister, what's going on? Don't you hate going into the kitchen? Why do you suddenly want to make egg tarts? Su Dao, by the way, I'm at your school gate. Please come out as soon as the get out of class is over. Tell me if you have anything to say. And pay attention in class. Sumo pursed her lips and said, okay. Soon, the bell rang for the end of get out of class. Lin Chen went downstairs and planned to have lunch. At the school gate, a girl in a Lolita skirt caught his attention, and Lin Chen couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. The moment the Lolita girl turned around, Lin Chen was dumbfounded. Sumo. Why is she here? Shouldn't she be in the classroom? Moreover, he remembered that Sumo was not wearing Lolita. I drove out here. Could it be that Sumo ran faster than the car and changed her clothes at the same time? Lin Chen came back to his senses and looked again, only to find that the Lolita girl had disappeared. He couldn't help but shook his head. It seems that I made a mistake. Thinking of this, Lin Chen stepped on the accelerator and drove away from the school. On this side, Sumo just walked to the school gate and was looking for a figure in the crowd. The moment she saw her, the Lolita girl immediately came forward. Sister, I'm here. The moment she saw her, Sumo breathed a sigh of relief. The girl wearing a Lolita skirt is her twin sister, Su Dao. They look almost identical, but their personalities are very different. Su Dao came over and hugged Sumo's arm. Sister, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? I'll treat you. Sumo glanced at her calmly. You don't have classes this afternoon. Su Dao squinted her eyes and smiled. I skipped class just to have a meal with you. How about it? Are you touched? Sumo shook her head. If you are not touched, you should stop skipping classes in the future. Oh yeah, I know. Fearing that her sister Sumo would nag at her, Su Dao quickly changed the subject. By the way, sister, why do you suddenly want to learn how to make egg tarts? Don't you dislike sweets? Hearing this, Sumo glanced at her, lowered her head slightly, and the tips of her ears turned a little red. Seeing this, Su Dao suddenly revealed a sly smile. Could it be that sister is in love? Are you learning to make egg tarts for a man? After hearing Su Dao's words, Sumo's face turned even redder, almost bleeding. You, don't talk nonsense. Su Dao held her chin with both hands and looked at her, saying teasingly. Oh my sister is angry. It seems I was right. We were born from the same womb. Don't I know what you are thinking? But you are really good at it. You even know that to win a man's heart you have to win his stomach first. Great. TSK. Su Dao looked at Sumo with curiosity, as if she had discovered a new world, which made Sumo furious. After a while, she had no choice but to tell the truth and told Su Dao everything that had happened between her and Lin Chen. After hearing this, Su Dao held her face with both hands, her eyes shining frighteningly. He arrived by helicopter, dressed simply. He made a big splash during military training, and when you were injured, he was the first to check on your injuries and even sent you to the infirmary. This is totally the plot of a sweet campus romance. As she spoke, she grabbed Sumo's hands with both hands and said excitedly. Is this guy named Lin Chen also like the male protagonist in the novel, with extraordinary abilities and superb IQ? Sumo gently pushed her hand away and gave her a subtle look. You should read less sweet romance novels. Su Dao was still immersed in her own imagination, and was extremely excited. After dinner, Su Dao came up with an idea, and Sumo was stunned. Change identity. Su Dao kept shaking her arms and said coquettishly. Sister, didn't we often change identities before? I'll just sit in your classroom and see what this Lin Chen looks like, okay? Besides, you finally found someone you like, so I must help you investigate and see if he has good character. Otherwise, with your stubborn personality, you would be cheated and not even notice it. Sumo couldn't resist her coquetry and had to agree. In the afternoon, when it was time for class, Sudao changed into Sumo's clothes and sat in the classroom looking around, looking for Lin Chen. Suddenly, her eyes lit up.